Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the November 4th, 2024 Planning Board meeting. Could we first please stand for the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tom would like me to remind everybody that this is being recorded and will be played at a later time. Obviously, we're not at the town boardroom because of the election tomorrow. First, we have correspondence. Anything anybody wants to discuss or go over? Anything, Counselor?
No, you saw this one regarding the 3850 Foothill.
Yeah, we got that.
You addressed that.
Yep. I have to apologize. I forgot my glasses, so I might steal irons, or I'm struggling here a little bit. Next, we have meeting minutes from October 21st, 2024. Any corrections or additions? John?
Nothing here.
Counselor?
Nothing for me, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
Motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're going to move into our regular portion of the meeting. First is the Lamp subdivision. This is a public informational hearing, location 357 Crow Hill Road. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing, public informational hearing?
Motion?
All those in favor? Aye. How are you?
Good evening. Jody Cross from Zarin and Steinmetz, and I'm here today with Evan Lamp, the applicant and owner of the property, and Paul Lynch, the project engineer. And we're here in connection with a minor subdivision of Mr. Lamp's property at 357 Crow Hill Road. We're just proposing a two-lot subdivision. Let's see if I get this mouse to work. Turning it on will help. All right. So here's the existing house over here. Here's the proposed house, and the property is accessed by a long driveway, a common driveway that's shared. It's part of Mr. Lamb's property, and there are three homes that have easement access rights over it. So the property is approximately 4.46 acres. It's in the R180 zoning district. The existing home would be on a lot that is 2.6 acres, and the new lot that we're proposing is 1.837 acres, which meets the 80,000 square feet. And the new lot would have, again, the driveway. The existing house would then have easement rights over the driveway as well. What we're proposing here, from a over 4 acre lot to what I was just saying before, is these lots are more consistent with the community character of the surrounding lots. The surrounding lots are all about 1 acre to 2.5 acres. We have the project engineer here who has looked into the details. There is sufficient space for septic and for well. And of course, any stormwater runoff will be mitigated to the satisfaction of this board and to the town engineer. So as I mentioned, this property accesses the Crow Hill Road over this common driveway. It's shared by 355, 367, and 371 Crow Hill Road. The easement agreement that has been submitted to the board does contemplate that Mr. Lamp can further subdivide his property. So the existing driveway now is 16 feet wide. It has 25 feet of frontage. So in the R180 district, there is a 200-foot frontage requirement. So we will need a variance from the zoning board both for frontage and because the new lot, or the lot that has the existing house on it, will no longer have any frontage. We'll need a 280A variance from the zoning board as well. We've also received correspondence from the building department that addressed the width of the road for fire apparatus. That is something we will continue to address both before this board and, if necessary, before the ZBA. So really, it's like we said, a minor two-lot subdivision. We're here, it's a public information hearing. We're here to hear what the public has to say, to answer any questions the board may have. And we would like to get a recommendation, a referral over to the zoning board, preferably a positive referral over to the zoning board, so we can move the process forward.
Thank you. public hearing or public informational hearing. Anybody from the public here to speak on this matter? No one. It's a pretty straightforward subdivision. Anybody from the board? John?
Nothing at this time.
Counselor?
No issues, Mr. Chair.
We want to discuss sending it over to the ZBA? Any problem?
Well, in that case,
You okay?
just want to remind the board that a 5-lot subdivision is typically a major subdivision, in particular if it has a town road. This doesn't have a town road, but at 5 lots, that's where you start to consider those issues, typically. Also, I don't know if you've seen some of the photographs, but there's work that is been commenced there. And I want you to note that we did get a memo from one of the building inspectors who's on the fire board, or we got it from the fire board, that requires a 20 feet wide driveway for the first 500 feet. Thereafter, 26 feet wide with a turnaround. So I would think that those items should be seen on a plan prior to it going over to the zoning board.
Is that because it is a 5-lot subdivision
No,
now? or just-
it has to do with the length.
I knew they were doing work to fix the site distance issue, but other work, looks like they started working on the road?
We did maintenance work on the road. It desperately needed some work. We did expand it from 14 to 16 with the understanding that that's not what this board, the building inspector has asked for. And like I said, we will either address that before this board or at the zoning board. But the work that we did was for regular maintenance, and I actually have some pictures if you want to see those.
Yeah, I have. All right, so I think at this point, probably the best bet is to, for your group to sit down with John and the engineer to go over what's needed to get us what we need, especially with these changes, to get that letter, to get you over the ZBA.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
To get the information we need to get you that letter to get to the ZBA. So I would sit down, set up a time to come in with John and Robin and Ian to go through everything.
Okay.
Okay?
And if the board's interested, I have some pictures of that we just took today of the road.
Yeah, we got,
These are new
oh,
from
okay.
today.
Oh, it's paved.
So it's now paved. So here's the new sight line,
Yeah.
and here's the road.
At what width?
It's 16.
So you increased it by 2 foot the whole way. Did Dan Ciarcia have any comments about that?
About
the road being-
No, he had comments that he'd like to see some stormwater measures to prove out
You
the
have the stormwater on time, right?
subdivision.
Do you want to talk about that? Oh, no, you don't.
Sounds like they got a little bit ahead here.
They got ahead.
Okay.
You want to show them where the turnaround is?
Yeah.
I would strongly recommend, before we go any further, with what's taking place out there to date, that you get a hold of Dan Ciarcia and John's office to go over what's been done before we go any further. Okay?
All right, that's fine. We'll
right.
contact the office and we'll sit down.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Anything else? We have a motion to close the public informational hearing.
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, the next application is also a public informational hearing. This is Jacob Road Solar. Location's 1805 Jacob Road. I want to just first say we have seen this public informational presentation. I think the issue was the neighbors were not noticed. I'm sure there's probably new neighbors here. We did hear from some of the neighbors the last time. We'll open up. I'm not going to ask you. Let me ask a question real quick. Have you seen the presentation? You know what's going on? You don't know what's going on. Okay. So you're with this to hear this too? All right. So you're going to have to.
Yeah, we were, got it. Yeah. We were, Mr. Chairman, well, I'll start. But
Let me first.
Yeah.
Do I have a motion to open the public informational hearing from Jacob Road?
Adjourned.
Adjourned. Thank you.
Adjourned here,
So it's, do we have to still open it, or is it still carried over?
Motion.
I would open it.
Just to be safe, just reopen it. Just to be safe, reopen it.
To reopen the public informational hearing. I heard a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You're on, Counsel.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is David Cooper. I'm a partner with the law firm Zarin and Steinmetz, here representing the applicant Freestone Renewables, who is the leasee of a property known as Featherbed Properties, which is proposing to develop a 3.125 megawatt solar energy facility at the property. With me tonight is Ryan Hutcherson from Freestone, who you know, Nicholas Von Voss from Labella Engineering, the project engineer, and my colleague Jacqueline Cohen. We are here tonight and John Colangelo, the property owner. We are here tonight on a public information hearing. We did renotice the application from the last time. I have to fall on my sword. My office used the wrong parcel identifier to get the addresses. So we confirm we're using the right address this time. We've notified everybody. What we're ready to do tonight, Mr. Chairman, is because there are some new faces in the audience, we were going to go quickly through the presentation. We know the board has seen the site plan, but we'll just start with the site plan and go through that. Go quickly through the landscape plan and the screening plan. We've spent a long time on it, but just want to highlight when we first applied to your board earlier this year, I think in February. The proposal originally was to have a 20-foot wooded buffer between the property line and then the clearance area. Since we've been working through the spring and summer with your board, that buffer area has now increased to 80 feet. So from the property line into the property, there will be 80 feet of existing wooded area kept. In addition, when we were first before your board, we were proposing to plant 6-foot tall trees on day one as a buffer around the solar panels. Now, for the majority of those trees, particularly on the western side, those are now at 12 feet. And we went through line of sight analyses at many different angles. We're not going to go through all of them tonight because we've gone through them. But what we have shown is that by putting essentially a wall of 12-foot high tall trees at planting along that western property, no matter where you are from a viewshed point, if you're looking straight or if you're going to go right or left, you're going to see the 12-foot tall trees. That's going to buffer your visual from the panels. What else we want to cover tonight, because there were some questions at the last meeting, one regarding stormwater management. There were some comments about, well, if you're going to remove trees from this property, what does that do from a flooding perspective, from a stormwater management perspective? Nick will be able to take you through that, as well as habitat replacement. We had a quick conversation. We just want to bolster it a little bit at the last meeting about the tree removal. Ultimately, with the trees being removed, with the trees being replanted, there'll be a loss of 274 trees on the property. And the question is, well, what does that do to the woodland habitat that's here? We'll take you through the woodland habitat, not only on the site, but also within a 3-mile radius of the area. What you'll see is that the woodlands that are in the area, that the trees that we've removed, those 274, is not significant when you look at the overall woodland area that would be available for the habitat. So yes, the woodland habitat in this area will be changed, right? But there's plenty of woodland habitat. Most of it is actually in preserves already for whatever animals that would be using this habitat now. It's not a protected habitat. It's not a habitat with endangered species in it, but whatever, rabbits, et cetera, that use it would still have ample areas to go. Plus, what we're proposing to do is change the habitat to a pollinator habitat or a meadow habitat, which Nick will take you through as well, so that it's not as if there's not another different type of animal habitat that's going to come to this portion. Also, there were some questions about the benefits of the project itself. I'm going to turn it over to Ryan to take you through that, and then we're happy to take any questions and then open up the microphone. So let me, with that, turn it over to Nick to take you through a couple of those first points, and then we'll turn it over to Ryan.
Good evening. It's nice to see everybody again. So just to kind of reorient everyone here, this is the landscape plan for the project. It kind of covers the entire property, so I thought this would be a good figure to start with, so that we could kind of see the entirety of the proposed site. We're bound by, and just so everyone is aware, north is to the left on this plan, which means east is up, west is down, and south is to the right. So the site is bound on the north side by Jacob Road. On the west side, there's some residential properties in the town of Cortland. To the south, there's more residential property, but directly south is mostly open space. And then to the east is a nature preserve. So as David kind of queued up, since tree loss was a major concern here, and the visibility of the proposed panels, we did want to provide a very robust landscape plan in order to hide the panels as best we can. So in addition to leaving an 80-foot gap of existing vegetation in place, we are proposing a mix of evergreen plants, very tightly spaced here along the western side to provide a green wall, as was suggested by the planning board previously. And like David said, many of these are going to be 12 feet high at planting in order to mitigate views from our neighbors directly to the west. The green wall then continues around to the north, because we do abut some residential properties directly north. And then on the east side, we're providing a more typical spacing of evergreen plants planted at 6 to 8 feet high on day one, in order to screen views of the site from a proposed trail that's going to be running, starting up here on Jacob Road and running south through the property. One of the other concerns that was raised was the stormwater management. What we are proposing to do to address this is the state of New York requires that we look at two pieces here. One is the treatment of what's called the water quality volume. That's your first flush. That's where you're going to have your highest sediment load during a rainfall. And the other part of this is peak rate control to ensure that the runoff leaving the site is no greater after construction than it would be now. So there was some concern that because we are removing vegetation, that there's going to be a significant increase in runoff, but that's just not true based on the model that we developed and submitted to the town for review. We were able to demonstrate that the runoff rate does actually drop for a 10-year storm. The runoff rate now, according to our model, would be about 106 cubic feet per second. And after construction, it would be just under 99 cubic feet per second. So we're actually reducing that by about 7 cubic feet per second in, again, a 10-year storm. So the site does slope generally from kind of northwest to southeast. There is some existing wetlands and water courses on site that'll be collecting everything. And so what we were asked to do by the state of New York is actually look at the analysis point of where runoff is leaving the site, right? So we estimated that the majority of the runoff is leaving the site here, and so we looked at everything that's kind of draining through that space. And even with the loss of trees, like David said, we're converting this to meadow, right? So You're getting a little technical here, but the runoff curve number between those two cover types is almost the same because of the soils that we have on site here. The majority of the site is a hydrologic group C, and some of it is hydrologic group D, and those are very low absorptive soils, mostly silts, a little bit of clay. Not a lot of the rainfall is actually getting into the ground. Most of it is shedding off the site, and so that's why we're able to. That's why you see very little change between the existing runoff rate and the proposed runoff rate. On balance, looking at the composite curve number, runoff curve number for the site, and this is shown in our model. There's no change actually in the runoff curve. So the difference in the pre-construction runoff and post-construction runoff is due solely to the majority of the runoff being directed to our stormwater treatment area, this bioretention area. It's a stormwater filtering practice, but it's also sized enough that it's actually going to, the outflow is going to be slightly less than the inflow during storm events up to a certain point. And then obviously in like a larger, biblical style rainfall, it'll be a little different. But for the most part, the runoff coming out is going to be lesser than what's coming in during your average rainfall. So with the site grading, with the poorly percolating soils, the change in cover type having almost no effect on the runoff, we don't see that there would be any impact whatsoever from the stormwater management. There was some concern about tree removal and habitat loss. So like David said, the net loss of trees is much lesser when you take into account that we're planting 780 something new trees. Our Labella scientists did look at the species that are potentially using the site. According to occurrence records, we're within range of the northern long-eared bat and the bog turtle. Our wetland scientists found no bog turtle habitat on site, so we don't see any concern there. But obviously with the loss of trees, that could be an effect on bat populations. But we did confirm with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service that the loss of the trees here is not going to have a significant effect on the northern long-eared bat, and that is primarily because, and it's going to be kind of tough to see on here, but there's a black line here that's it's actually a 2.5 mile buffer around the site here on Jacob Road. And so you can see there's a significant amount of vegetation that is going to remain even with the loss of vegetation here on this site. So we simply don't see there being a significant effect whatsoever on any endangered species. The only other species that came up during our search was the monarch butterfly. It's not officially listed. It's a candidate species, so it's not technically regulated. But nevertheless, we're actually creating habitat that could be used. Currently, there's no habitat for the monarch because they prefer meadow. But after the site is operating, then we're actually creating meadow because obviously we want to have good standard vegetation throughout the site. We're happy to provide a pollinator-friendly mix if the board should see fit. But the idea is we're going to cover the entire site in grass, not just for the monarch and other pollinator species, but also for erosion sediment control, for stormwater mitigation.
Okay, if you're not done.
No, I'm done here. Yeah. So, sure, yes. So we took that same graphic as well and overlaid public lands and conservation easements. So you can see here that there's significant amount of land within 2.5 miles of the site that are theoretically, forever wild, untouchable, no chance for there to be any further tree removal there. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ryan to talk about public benefits.
Thanks. Good evening, board and team. Good to see you again. I just wanted to say a few words on the benefits of community solar projects like Jacobs Road. First, community solar facilities generate clean electricity that is fed into the local grid, but it allows multiple participants to use that. So everyone in this room that lives in this town has access to the electrons from this project directly. So you can sign up, and those electrons will come to you from this project. So we're not powering New York City or any other areas. It's all designed to be locally used. This differs from rooftop and utility scale solar, which only one individual or one group typically benefit from, or no one benefits from in the case of large utility scale projects. Here, for utility or for community solar, renters, homeowners, businesses, and importantly, low to moderate income individuals have direct access to this energy. And just a couple other highlights here: economic benefits. So reduced energy costs, as I mentioned. We have a minimum 10% requirement, so any of the electricity that you use from this project will be at a 10% discount to whatever the electric rates are. And this is different from a community choice aggregator, which I think some of you are familiar with. It's different than that. This is community solar, so rates are set and they're state mandated, and it's not just what you go buy power from. It's not a pass-through to the customer. It's all fixed. Job creation through construction, operations and maintenance, and increased property tax revenue. So this new revenue helps services like education, emergency response, and enhancing general community resources overall. Environmental benefits for this particular site, I don't know how to go back, but we're contemplating a trail donation through the property to connect a couple of adjacent properties, and then 5 acres we're going to be designated as a conservation easement as well on the bottom half of that leg that you see there. There's a reduction in carbon emissions. So this project in particular decreases CO2 emissions by 600%, and that's for only its 11-acre footprint of solar panels. We'll have erosion control to protect wetlands and surface water, and there'll also be plenty of habitat, especially for pollinators, but all the other animals will come and be under these same 780 trees or whatever that we're planting along the outsides. There's social benefits, solar access for diverse residents, so it allows access to folks who don't have rooftop space, like renters, condo residents. Also allows access to moderate to low to moderate income folks, such as fixed income individuals. And then there's educational opportunities. We were already planning on having some stuff on the trail that would educate on solar, but we'd like to entertain partnering with local schools and have some sort of educational program along with that once we get to that point. And then lastly, it's local grid reliance. These things reduce stress from the grid and our dependence on fossil fuels. So you have a generator right here in town that can be utilized when other forms are offline. That's all I've got, and I'll pass along to landowner John Colangelo.
Just want to say a few words. Hi, everyone. My name is John Colangelo. Thank you again for having me tonight. I am the owner of 1805 Jacobs Road. Just want to give you guys a little history of the property, just so that way everybody knows what was there, what I was planning to do with the property. This property was purchased by my dad and my 2 uncles back in the late 70s. This was a former farm. This was owned by Jacob Dalton. I don't know if you guys know Jacob Dalton, but he was a caretaker for Catherine Field. So you guys all know the field house? You know the field home? Yes? No? Well, Anyway,
Yeah, when you speak, you got to speak at the mic.
So Jacob Dalton was the caretaker for Catherine Field. That's why it's called Field Street and Catherine Street. And there's also Dalton Road and also Jacob Road. So this was his farm that he used for Catherine's field home. Well, her house, her homestead. It was then purchased by the Constable family, and it was farmed up until the late 70s, until my dad and his two uncles bought it. I know the property well. This is where I learned how to hunt. It's full of deer. It's great property. I also look to build my home there on one of these lots. So we had the anticipation of building 6 homes here. We were reducing it to 5 just because of the cost of the road. We need a partner to actually build the road with us because of the cost of the road. It doesn't really make financial sense. This project, although I got it for free through inheritance, it's actually a money pit. It's turned into a somewhat profitable endeavor to a passion project. Luckily enough, my brother and my sister are okay. We can keep this going, but it's really hard to actually make any financial sense to do such a small subdivision and maintain environmental beauty, because we still want to farm the property or have a little bit of farming left. So this portion of the property where they're proposing the solar is actually sloped away from any residential. You really don't see it. And I know that there's people here that abut the property on the Cortland side. I can assure you the 150 feet buffer that we have here installed, and along with like the screening in place, you're definitely not going to see anything from the Cortland Manor side. So, if you guys have any questions, feel free to come up here and ask me, or if you want to come up to me after the meeting and just speak to me personally about it. Love to talk to you more about the project. Thank you.
Thank you. There'll be a point where you can come up.
That's all we have tonight, unless you want to go back. I mean, we kind of brushed over everything, so, yeah, happy to answer any questions or wait for
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah.
All right, we'll open up to the public. If you have any comments, just come up, state your name and address, and ask your question.
Good evening, Jay Kopstein. At our last PIH, I presented information on usage of electricity. Would like to point out that those questions were not responded to tonight by the applicant. He spoke in very roundabout terms, but spoke nothing about actual usage. And that should be something considered by this board. Thank you.
Thank you. How you doing?
Bob Tambulinas, I live on Dalton Drive. I just wanted to know, is this something that the town would profit from? Do we need this?
So, right now, the town is in a moratorium for this type of projects, and I think the moratorium was just extended for 6 months. So, will the town profit from this? No. This isn't a town project.
Do we need the added electricity? I assume it's going to generate electricity.
So, there's a debate there. New York State has mandated that we go to a certain point, but I think 2032. And there is a heavy push for solar, battery, wind, because they want to get off the fossil fuels.
But does it actually generate enough electricity, or is it a toy?
Well, I'm not an electrical engineer. There is science out there behind this. I think part of the issue is the land that goes about getting cleared when these projects are going through. We've got a few of them in town now. There have been complaints about the visual aspects, things along that line. But no, the town does not benefit monetarily for this type of
And
work.
can somebody show me where that marker that says 1805 is? With all this map, I still don't know where it is.
We'll have someone do that.
I have no idea. I see Jacob Road, but nothing makes sense.
So all the questions you ask here, like Mr. Copestein said earlier, will get answered by the applicant, so they will get back to you. We'll get that answer.
And how long does this lease last, if the land is being leased?
We'll ask that question to the applicant.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
How you doing?
Hi, how are you? I wrote a statement on the train, but I'm going to editorialize a little bit given the presentation, which I was unfortunately missed a few weeks ago.
Oh, we just need your name.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So,
Sorry.
sorry, it's in my statement. That's okay. My name is Brian Mahoney. I live at 10 Southgate Drive in Cortland Manor with my partner Jen and our 11-year-old son. For the past 11 years, we've loved where we live. Because of the lush woods and waking up to wildlife. We've watched families of deer and wild turkey walk through the woods behind our home, and even the occasional bobcat. The other night we heard a coyote ruckus, but hopefully and luckily we didn't see it. But the families and individuals that are going to be affected by this: Glasbury Court, Catherine Street, Croton Avenue, Field Street, Jacob Road, Jordan, Mountain View, Natalie, Oscar, and Southgate, all will be affected by replacing trees with solar. It's not fair to the animals. It's not fair to us in Cortland. You're tearing down trees. I know they're replacing them, but they're still tearing them down behind my house. So every morning I drive to Croton train station to commute to Manhattan. Croton's done an unbelievable job of installing solar in the parking lot in a commercial district. That's, to me, where these belong, not in a forest behind residential houses, behind Glasbury Court. You know, it just doesn't make sense putting it in a residential neighborhood in a nice field. The plans by the developer show the solar farm begins 193 feet from the corner of my home, but it's so much closer to my property line, which that map, I don't know if it was intentional, didn't show. It showed some of the houses. It didn't. My neighbors, it showed from their property line. But it's 193 feet from the corner of my home. It's closer to my property line, closer to my pool patio, closer to where my son plays in my backyard. And it's closer to the homes on Natalie and on Jacob. Look, we don't know the long-term health effects. I know there's benefits to solar and the safety of the battery storage. We do know it'll greatly affect the value of more than 100 homes. People don't want to live near a solar farm when they can live next to a woods. It's a wonderful habitat, and it's going to affect the quality of our life. So I'm asking you not to let them build it here. If you need to put it, in an industrial, commercial space, fine, I believe in solar, but not near residential homes. It just doesn't make sense. The other thing, and it's going to be a selfish reason, but it benefits Yorktown. It doesn't benefit Cortland. My backyard is Yorktown. So I heard the benefits to Cortland, to Yorktown. We don't matter in Cortland, I guess. It doesn't benefit us at all.
I will tell you, I don't mean to cut you off. You do
No,
matter.
Huh?
You do matter. That's why you get noticed. for the-
No, I know.
I
didn't mean. I wasn't offending you.
No, I
wasn't
understand.
insulting you. I was insulting
I
them.
completely understand.
But I heard meadows. Meadows aren't trees. Obviously, these things are going to be. It's going to be construction. That who knows how long. They can probably tell us how long the construction is going to take. And the statement by the landowner, he can assure us we won't be seen. I don't want to take that risk. That we're going to look out our back porch and see solar when right now we're looking at woods. And you can go on Route 6, you can go on 202, put it somewhere else, please. That's what I'm asking, and so many of my neighbors agree. So that's all. Thanks.
Thank you.
I appreciate the time.
Again, I do want to mention that, you can come up. I do want to mention that this is a matter in front of the town board at this time, as there is a moratorium that's just been extended another 6 months. So any comments about the location of solar or zoning, this is a good time to get them to our town board members. How are you?
Good. Dan Strauss, 58-year resident. It's deja vu all over again. And I'm up here again. I was up here a month ago. I haven't changed my tune. When developers or owners want solar, it's great. They tell you everything about the greatness of solar on that particular land. And I made the comment the last time, that is a subdivision. That means it's residential. When they want to build houses, they tell you how great the houses are for the environment. They cut down trees either way. But for me, this is a commercial use in a residential zone. I agree with the gentleman before me, who I've never heard speak. A lot of people in Yorktown have heard me speak a ton of times at various meetings, and I will hold to that. It does not belong in a residential zone. And I understand that you, in some way, distance yourself from the town board, but you also work in conjunction with the town board. And I do know the rules. I've been coming here for 10 years. I do know. I don't know all the rules, but I know a lot of the rules. And I know that you are bound to a degree by what the town board does. I understand that. But on the other hand, you do have the right to say no. And that is becoming a mantra. Don't you have the right to say no? And again, the other word that has been bandied around, or phrase, is, what's it? Right. We have the right to do this. I don't think they have the right to do it. It's simply the same as whether that plays out the same way the transfer station, a commercial deal in a residential area. They have the
not why we're
right.
here.
I understand. I'm making a comparison.
I understand.
And so I'm going to continue. And the other thing that, as far as I know tonight, was not addressed specifically was the slope. I don't live over there. I do not live over there. I don't live in Jefferson, right where they have the one in Jefferson Valley, and I don't live on Foothill. And those two are disasters, as far as I'm concerned. And a lot of people feel the same way. They are disasters. And they were approved. They were approved. So again, what about the slope? Does that slope, if I'm standing here and there is a slope going down or up, you don't need engineers to tell me that. I said that the last time, and then they said, well, they used the county map. What bearing does that have? Does it slope? And I don't know if the gentleman's going to talk about from Wilkins Farms. I hope he does. Because is there a slope? Will the people see it? Will they see it?
So all these
those
questions
are my
have to be
comments
answered.
for now.
Yep.
I do believe that this does not belong in where they're proposing it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Strauss. How you doing?
This is short. My name is Mike Vecchio. I also live on Dalton. I'm a 10-year resident of Yorktown, Cortlandt Manor side. Lived in Yorktown 30 years ago. And the other side, near the St. Pat's Church. Hunter Brook. When I say I live in Hunter Brook, what does that mean to everybody here? Hunter Brook's an iconic neighborhood in this town. It's Ebolic, it's rural, it's country. You have 3 abominations of solar farms already. The one in the Cortlandt side, the one in Kitchewan, and the one, this Route 6 disaster there. It's residential. Keep it residential. That's all I can say. They're horrible. And the Kitchewan one is 4 times smaller. This is 4 times larger than that farm. And you can see that from the street. You see this other one, the Cortland one, from the street. And you know what the disaster is on 6. So keep Hunter Brook, Hunter Brook. And there's a lot of houses there and a lot of families there. That's it.
Thank you.
Good evening, Susan Siegel. I'm speaking as a resident and not as a town board member. I'd like to follow up on what Dan asked about the slope issue, and can either the applicant or the planning board clarify whether there's been any revision to that visual assessment that was based on the issue that came up at the last meeting, whose responsibility that is. Also, I did a very quick look at the correspondence section of the agenda, and there's this lengthy memo from the DEP regarding this. And it mentioned the battery storage facility portion of this. I wasn't aware that there was a battery storage facility as part of this, because all the discussion seems to have been about the visual impact and the trees. So did I misread something, or did I miss it? But there's been absolutely no discussion about that. And they had, the town also has a moratorium on battery storage, but there's been absolutely no discussion at this board about that part of the facility. Also, you might say that this is a town board issue when the town board gets to talk about changes to the solar law. But if either you or the applicant can indulge me, because I forgot to bring it tonight, one of the pages and a brief paragraph from that DEP memo that talks about, I think it's on page 3 of the memo, and it talks about the issue of locating a solar facility such as this in the residential neighborhood like Hunter Brook, and it talks about it being counterintuitive, and it talks about the state goal of energy. So, Aaron, can you look at it? Because I'm sorry I didn't bring it, but I think you know what I'm referring to. It's a relatively short paragraph, but I think it's the essence of this application and the concerns that residents have. Thank you.
Thank you. How you doing?
Good. Good evening. Randy Pratt, 8 Natalie Court, Cortland Manor, and the owner of Wilkins Fruit Farm. I obviously said a lot at the last meeting, but I have just some points I want to reiterate tonight. One, I'm concerned about the drawings that have been submitted to you, because all the drawings I've seen don't show any of the residents as part of the subdivision, and Mr. Tegeter at the last meeting said that the applicant is planning to do that. So it doesn't give us, the drawings we see give us the impression that this access road is through a nice wooded area, and apparently it's not going to be. So I think the drawing should be modified to show the subdivision and the homes that are going to be built there as well, because they're going to be impacted by this visually as well, and not just all the other homes that are existing, but the new homes. There's some things that probably need to be considered, maybe in the moratorium and the revision of the statute. You know, there's been an issue about security of these properties, that the lease turns over and they don't know who's handling it next, who's going to be responsible for the upkeep, who's going to be doing the annual inspections, which I had talked about. The annual inspection is just too short of a period of time. And they talk about this being a meadow. Well, today I had the opportunity to do a site visit of the installation on Croton Avenue and Furnace Stock Road with Eddie Bazinet, who's in charge of the maintenance of that facility. Well, I don't think it'll ever be in a meadow, and it will never grow milkweed, which is what you need for monarch butterflies to be pollinators in that area. So that they're required to cut that 4 times a year to keep the grass from growing into the panels. So I don't see how this can ever turn into a meadow for monarch butterflies. I also was there because I had started to read that there was a noise issue from the inverters on the farm. I don't know where these inverters are, but we were doing some decibel measuring of those inverters where we're there. On the line of sight issue, I have told the board that I believe his name was Marcus from Labella had been on my deck and taken photographs, and those photographs have never been shown up or presented to you to see what you see from our decks and not being that 6-foot person standing on the property line. You know, the project really has no connection with Yorktown. The solar company is from Colorado. The engineers are from Latham, New York. What is their interest in what happens here in Yorktown or in Cortland? None whatsoever. Theirs is a financial interest, not on our community interest of what our neighborhood's going to look like and how it's going to affect our neighbors. So he also mentioned on the east side that there was a nature preserve. I don't know if he's referring to the linear park, but the linear park is really south of the parcel. The east side of this property is Mark Wallach's property. So I don't know if Mark has intentions to further develop that property or not, but that's what's on the east side. He also mentioned tree loss and saying it's going to be equal. Well, today he's saying 700 trees they're going to put in, but they're taking over 1,000 trees out in the future. But you need to look at the aerial photographs of this property over the last 2 years, and you will see the number of trees that have already been cut down in this property. We constantly could hear that removal of trees over the last 2 years, okay? And then we talk about a habitat, okay? Mr. McMahon, I think it was right. The coyotes are in there, and they were very loud the other night, and you can hear them almost every night in there. So there's a lot of habitat in that area. So to say that this will have no impact on them, I don't think is accurate. And once again, I hope that you really take in consideration what your advisory boards are telling you. They're appointed by the town board. They're there to give you advice. You need to listen to what they say. I know the Conservation Board is looking at this again, and I hope you consider their memos in making a decision on this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Laura Martin. You do have correspondence for me on another matter, but I'm not to speak about that now. I just want to voice my opposition to the solar farm. I'm opposed to any solar farm installations in residential areas in Yorktown, and I can tell you that because I live above Foothill, and I know the buffer zones were increased and increased. I live hundreds of feet from the Foothill solar farm, and I see it because they just put the panels in, and I see it every day. And so there has to be considerations with respect to the buffer zones. The types of trees, deciduous and non-deciduous trees, are not created equal. And we're now in what, stick season, right? And all the leaves are gone. And people hundreds of feet, if not measured in miles away from these developments, are affected. Further, the USDA states that milkweed is at maturity at 5 feet. I don't know of any solar farm installation that is allowing the weeds or growth to achieve 5 feet, because I believe the panels on average are installed 3.5 to 4 feet off the ground. So if you hit 5 feet, you're now obstructing the solar collection. And so they're mowing it. So this idea that it's a meadow is absolutely false. And thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you.
My name is Pat Lecce, and I live on Dalton Drive, which is in Glassbury Court. My backyard practically abuts Jacob Road. One of the previous speakers, this is just a question, I don't know if anybody can answer it. One of the previous speakers mentioned a noise issue. I was not aware that there was a noise issue. These facilities, or whatever you want to call them, when they're up and running and in operation, do they emanate noise that the neighbors can hear, like a buzz, or I don't know. That's just my question.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify my term, as of right. That was what I was trying to say.
Understood.
As of right. And I will also say that it's unfortunate when these previous solar farms came to light and in front of the boards, that more people were not getting up and stating what these people tonight have said. More did not, unfortunately. And I think we would not have the disaster and the destroying of the character, if there is any character left in Yorktown, wouldn't have been done. Thank you.
Thank you. Aaron, I know you have some comments. Did you want to?
I do. I reviewed carefully some of the memos that came in from Westchester County and New York City Department of Environmental Protection. One question that came to my mind before I get to those memos was raised by one of our speakers, and that is whether or not the visual surveys have been revised in light of the commentary from the last meeting, and if they have not been, is that something that you're intending to do? So that's one question I have. Stepping away from that question, New York City raises some very significant issues in terms of the kind of environmental reviews that need to be done in this case, in this situation for this application. And their first recommendation is that this board declare a significant environmental impact is likely as a result of this application, and that we adopt a positive declaration to that effect. And then they go on and list a whole series of reasons in support of that recommendation. A primary reason is, of course, the impact of cutting trees, and what they're really saying is that these issues haven't been fleshed out in the environmental analysis. So another question I have is the EAF, the environmental assessment form that was filed, has that been updated? Is that complete? Because as it stands, we're going to this public informational hearing on the basis of that environmental analysis, and the city and Westchester County are essentially saying that it's insufficient and that the impacts of this project are greater than can be dealt with properly in an EAF. Those are some of the important points. The quality of the seeker review on this project, especially in light of the lessons we've learned from the other projects that have gone through, where we are now seeing some of the impacts that may not have been properly addressed that time around, and I think we have an obligation as a board to make sure that we address them now.
Absolutely.
Rich, one other comment relative to that New York City memo. I really don't recall a lot of discussion about the battery storage units, and so we do have to see where they are. I think I can see them on the site plan, but they're not labeled.
Actually, let me just, sorry to jump in on this one, but with all due respect to the county, I think they were commenting on the Somers battery storage. This project is not proposing 116 megawatt battery storage.
Is there any battery storage?
There's a small battery storage just proposed in concept should the moratorium be lifted and allowed. But at this point, there's no battery storage that would be permitted with this project. But if it were, it's like a, there's a 30 square feet? What's the square footage? 30 square feet, in a fireproof box with fire retardant or fire protections within it. This comment memo, this 4 pages of ESS comments, it's not responding to our project. The comments with respect to the record, whether or not the record is at a place for a determination of significance under SECRA, we don't believe it is, right? We've just gone from conceptual review into public review. We will now be responding to these comments, and one of the questions that I think Councilman Bach was asking was about, are we going to be updating, or have we updated the visuals yet? No, because we haven't made a submission since the public information hearing started. We wanted to get all the comments, and then we'll be responding in a comprehensive way. So, right. So, with respect to the DEP letter, I respectfully, I don't believe that they were actually commenting on the accurate and the correct application.
Any of it?
I don't know, but for them to put two and a half pages of comments about 116 megawatt battery storage. It's not proposed, it's not,
I'm looking.
that's Somers. That's the Somers project is 116 megawatts.
I'm looking for their reference to 116.
Item 24.
24, yeah.
But they're talking about the size of the entire facility, not the size of the battery storage unit.
No, they're talking about the storage of the
what they're
right,
calling
how does the size of
ESS?
a proposed facility, 160 megawatts? That's not our proposed facility. That's the Somers facility.
So if I could jump in, I think there's been a lot of written questions.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of verbal questions. I understand that you want to answer all the questions once so that it's all
Down at
addressed
the
at the
end,
same
all right.
time. Clearly, there's some questions we have with other agencies. So at this point, I think we have to, there's some work to do here on both sides. Any other comments from the public? Questions? Anything else from the board? And I want to state again, this is a public informational hearing, which is unique to Yorktown. This is just a precursor of the project moving forward. So there's going to be a whole set of public hearings if it does move forward. And there's going to be opportunities for both the applicant to answer those questions, and there's going to be opportunities for questions or any other comments or concerns the public has. At this point, do we have a motion to close the public informational hearing?
Motion. Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yep.
We're going to move into our work session now. We'll give everybody a second to regroup. I'm getting 1,000 emails for a text from work. You hear the phone buzzing?
What?
It buzzes every time someone's texting.
You know, I know you keep it there. I haven't been.
I got a call. Oh, my
I
God.
got a moment to go into the facility.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What's that?
Oh, yeah. It's everywhere. Everything's, the electric's getting pushed like mad. They're, you know, the gas they want to pull away from. And Joe, we're just going to give Aaron 1 second. We'll be right back.
Yeah, I'll wait.
Take care. Have a good night. We're just going to give Aaron 1 second, and we'll get moving.
This letter from, about the, is that detrimental to
We'll have to see. Yeah.
I wondered if that was, you know, a problem for her. Okay.
It's not my idea.
Look, they locked him out.
Close meeting.
All right, we're going to move on to EnviroAgreement Associates. This is a discussion of site plan, locations 1833 to 1875 East Main Street, Mohegan Lake.
Hello, everybody.
How you doing, Joe?
Okay, good. So this project has been kicking around for a while. The site plan that I have up shown right now is the approved site plan, which shows an existing building on the west side of the property and a new building around 13,000 square feet over on the east side of the building, which is this building here. All the proposed parking for that. We were bogged down for a while getting DEC and Army Corps approval, which we're past that. We have the DOT approval for the new entrance, which is right here. At this point, the property owner, Rick Cipriani, is looking to amend the site plan and split the proposed building into two buildings. Into two buildings, losing about 2,500 square feet. And the idea here is, zoom in tight. So the overall extent here is the same as the approved footprint, except this building on the right. We've pulled this in a little bit, so it's actually a little less in depth. So we end up with two buildings. This one's 6,200 plus square feet, and this is 4,100 square feet. He currently has two tenants in the existing building that's on the west side of the site that want to move into this building. One is Dunkin' Donuts, and they're looking for a drive-through, and the other is a hair salon, which would be moving over into this space here that needs a larger space. So flow through the site would be, the entrances still remain the same. It would be one-way circulation around this way with a drive-through lane going around the back of the building, and the serve-up window would be here, and then a pass-through lane just to the other side of that. And then we have this other building, which is 4,100 square feet, which is no tenants proposed yet for that space. The overall footprint of the improvements of the site is not changing. We've lost 2 parking spaces with this change, but we have more than what's adequate to support what's being proposed. The pass-through, as you can see, does not line up with the entrance here. It's a little bit awkward. I mean, this is where the DOT approved this. We just got this approved by the DOT. So it's, but the positive part of that is that people coming through the pass-through and the window won't blow through here. They'll stop. They'll have to make a little bit of a maneuver to get out, but it's not hard. The front of the site is remaining the same. We have the same 8-foot sidewalk and landscape medium, so that hasn't changed at all. And again, the extent of the development has not changed. The only thing that has changed essentially is we've taken a chunk out of the building between the two buildings. So we end up with less square footage.
Any chance that you could have superimposed the two so we can see what's different?
What would you like me to do?
Any chance that you can put the original under the new so we can see what exactly is happening?
I can't do that now, but... is that-
Yeah, I know that. Well,
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
This project has been going on for some time.
Since
In fact,
2014.
At some point, I think the town wrote a letter to the DEC, DEP, excuse me.
No, DEC.
DEC. Asking us to work with us, and this has been a lot of back and forth. Yeah, I think it's important, as you said, to see exactly everything. I will tell you, the rendering is helpful.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it look like a sea of asphalt,
Right.
especially with the roof color. I'm sure that wasn't meant to be that way, but
Right. So the new the elevation of these buildings pick up the existing
yeah.
building. I thought we were in town hall, so I thought I was going to have Wi-Fi, and I was going to be able to bring up the
Yeah.
the existing building in street view, but I can't do that now.
And I know there was a lot of focus on the wetlands behind the building.
Right. And that, we're not moving that line at all.
Yeah.
That limit is, everything is the same. As I said, we're basically just taking a chunk out of the two buildings, in between the two buildings.
Yeah. So, John, since this has been so long, what is, are we starting from scratch here again, or?
No, you're not starting from scratch. But, the record needs to be reviewed to make sure
Yeah.
that it's up to date.
With the wetland delineation and all that, or are we?
Wetland delineation, I probably...
I can't
should-
imagine that's changed, but
It's supposed to, under our code, last for a year, so
is it a year or 3 years?
1 year.
1 year?
Even if it's 3 years, it's overdue.
Yeah, it's been going on. I would ask you, Joe, to sit down with Dan and the planning group and just go through what we need.
Okay.
So that we can get this through. I know we were very in favor of it the last time. And it just got blown apart by outside. Good. Oh, please.
Joe, have you looked at switching the two buildings so you don't have that crazy, awkward entrance?
We would, we did look at that.
Entrance.
You can't make that happen with the desired size space that the owner wants to have.
Who
So,
wants to have?
the owner. What are you asking me?
Yeah.
Say that again,
Can
Liza.
you switch the two buildings?
Oh, switch the two
What's the
buildings.
main change?
We could try that.
So
We
I
could give
just-
that a try.
Because I kind of looked at it, and it makes it so that there isn't that weird
Awkward
four-way
thing.
intersection in the
Yeah,
middle.
we could certainly look at that. We could run that past Mr. Cipriani. This is what he dictated to us, but we'll take a look at it.
okay.
So she's saying,
So that's the main focus of this, is you've got a fairly passive site up to now, where people would park, go into a building and come out, and now you've got a lot of traffic circulation and everything else going on. That's what we have to look at, the impacts of that. I don't like the way you've got it lined up either.
Well, I switched, I didn't have time to send this to you, but I switched the two buildings and left the center green, because if this is going to possibly be a restaurant, they're going to want something anyway. And you don't need the traffic coming in the middle.
Okay,
But we can talk about
we
it.
can see.
We could certainly look at that.
It looks better. It looks better from what Robin did.
Sounds good.
So take a look on your own, but
Sounds good.
okay?
Very good.
All right, so we'll look at some options and see if it works. And we'll
Okay.
renew the project. It's been a minute.
2014.
Oh, my God.
10 years. Okay.
We could be breaking a record here.
All right, thanks very much.
All right, thanks, Joe.
What's next?
All right, next we got the Par 3 Golf Course. This is a discussion of the site plan amendments. Location 795 Route 6. How are you? Just give Joe a minute.
Good evening. Matt Behrens. I'm the architect representing the application for still unnamed Par 3 golf course. This is an application for some proposed amendments to the previously approved site plan. These improvements will provide additional services for the patrons of the golf course. They include some outdoor lounge seating areas that are integrated into the landscape. There's also a new standalone snack bar. It's about 240 square feet. And a covered patio. The patio slab was existing. They put a frame and a vinyl cover over that patio, which is going to act as overflow for the restaurant. It's minimal impact to the environment. No trees were removed. And it's, again, it's just an opportunity to make some improvements to the site plan. We did receive some comments on Friday, so we will address those in our next submission.
So these improvements are in place already?
They are, yes.
Are we still the lead agency on this?
If you're going to do, you approve the site plan, and so if you're going to do another amended approval, you are eligible to be the lead agency, and I think you will be. I don't think anybody wants to take on that role other
Weren't
than
we
yourself.
from the inception?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For your action, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Any exterior lighting?
That was one of the comments. There is
So
in
you
the
look
parking
into that.
lot, but
Okay.
we'll add that on the next submission.
All
yes.
right.
And I know I blew off the last site plan, or site walk, because of reasons of work, but they're right next to each other, these two sites, the one with the battery and this. I really think it would be worthwhile going out here, since we haven't been out here in some time. And, you know, I think one of the things here is this isn't known as the Par 3, this is known as the T-Bar. Very popular place. You can see
Yes.
the whole area gets very well used. I think it's very loved in town.
It's a lot more popular than they expected.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think everybody sees that. But I think there's been a lot of changes to what was originally approved. I don't know how this, if there's a, so this is town property, and there's an agreement with the owner running everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So does that have to go past that avenue first before it gets to us?
I'll be addressing that with the town board during this process.
Okay.
But town board's well aware of what is happening here.
All right.
And I know that they want to have any amenity that is on this site, you know, legal and approved.
Yeah.
So and that would be this board.
So we can move forward while that's going on?
Yes.
All right, I think the first thing we got to do is get out to the site. You know, there's events out there, there's lighting put in the back. I think we got to really look at all that.
Yeah.
All right, so
Okay.
if we could set that up?
Yes.
Ian, I promise this time I will not blow you off. I'm very sorry. Early voting, budget killed us.
I'd like to request, I know I have it somewhere, but I'd like to get the approval, the approving resolution and the site plan that we actually approved to look at before we get out there.
All right?
Okay.
Okay.
I'll set that up with Ian.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Take care. All right, next we have a town board referral. This is the Foothill subdivision. Address is 3850 Foothill Street.
Not at all associated with the Foothill Solar.
No.
Completely different. Same street. Okay. This is on a rezone.
Yep.
Evening. My name is Peter Scott. I'm before you talking about the Foothill Street subdivision. We've been working on it a while. So basically, we have a 16-acre parcel of land, and it's located on the east side of Foothill. We're right in the corner of Yorktown, and the property basically is wooded, but there's a lot of remnants of past activities on the site. Foundations and other structures which have been removed over time. Across the street is the Yorktown Solar Farm. Above us is the Strawberry Hill Park half-acre subdivision, which overlooks the property. It's a hilly site between 10 and 15% slope. To the right-hand side is a New York State DEC wetland. That's been flagged by Environmental Services, our wetland consultant. Again, we have not yet been to DEC. We're here to talk about this proposal, which we submitted to town board. As you can see on the plan before you, we can get 7 lots developed with a town road. Everything's complying. The septics are complying. We've done some testing on those. And again, when you look at the extent of the disturbances, we ended up with, as of right, 654 lineal foot of road and 5 acres of disturbance. We are somewhat constrained, though, with putting in these single-family home project, mainly due to the fact that we have the solar farm across the street. I kind of agree with people's comments earlier. There's no real buffering between ourselves and our property. We think there's a better way of doing this project. There is a methodology in the town of Yorktown to convert a standard subdivision into multifamily units and making it more compact. But we'd like to do something a little bit more because of our improvements. If we did multifamily, we would not use a subsurface sewage disposal. We use the on-site water lines on Foothill, and we bring sewer up Foothill to our property. And we have sewer to the south, about 650 feet. So with all that said, our proposal then would be as follows. Our proposal is to basically eliminate all that disturbance from making it a conforming single lot subdivision and make a much more consolidated package, which would be in 4 buildings, 20 units. Our disturbance with this proposal would be reduced to 3.5 acres. Again, we would have similar stormwater management, but a lot less impervious. This is much less impervious than a town road and individual lots. And basically, we could densely compact it on the far left-hand corner on that proposal before you, and all the tree buffers would be maintained around our property. And we can enhance them if so desired, but we'd be basically making an opening in the woodland and leaving all the perimeter intact. If you notice on the other project I showed you, to achieve septic areas, we were going up on upper reaches of the project where our slopes are less than 15%. This doesn't need any problems with 15%. We can densely pack it in the corner. We did come up with some proposals to look at very quickly. This is a rendering of what the project would look like. The rear elevations would face a street, and that would be these two buildings that you look at from the street line. And then the other plan is a streetscape along the roadway. Our property is slightly sloped, so we're able to basically work with the terrain. This plan is based upon the proposed topography of this project as a multi-family component.
Can I ask a question when you're talking about the topography?
Yes.
On the proposal with the homes, you showed the grading.
I did, yes.
On the proposal with the attached homes, you don't show the grading.
No, I can do that for you, though, very quickly.
All right. I think we'd like to see that, because
Sure.
the grading on the homes is extreme.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Is the grading around the attached units going to be the same?
No. We're outside the steep slope areas.
All right, so I think that's important to show us.
We can provide that to you,
Right?
sure.
Because that's going to make, that could be a big difference in the two projects. If one is calling for extreme grading and the
Right.
other one isn't, obviously, there's a lot less disturbance from one to the other.
Yes, we'll provide that.
I think that's something we really want to see.
Yeah, I have to turn the layer on, to be honest with you. I have to edge a disturbance, but I'll just turn the layer on.
I get it. That's something, if you're, this is on a request to the town board. It's been referred for a zoning change.
Correct, yes.
Right? So when you're asking for the zoning change, what are the benefits between the two?
Sure.
So, and we understand the solar next door and all that. You got to sell us on what the differences are.
Not a problem. We'll provide it to you.
All right?
We have profiles and everything else on
I
the site.
understand, but at this point, I'm sure you're looking to get something to the town board sooner than later.
Sure.
And the devil's in the details, right?
Yeah.
So,
not a problem.
All right?
Not a problem at all.
Thank you.
Just to ask, since you're asking questions, you spoke very briefly about the clustering. Clustering a single-family development here?
Yes.
Why is that not under consideration?
Well, the clustering, basically, we would need septic systems as well. So when you cluster, we still have to have areas for the septic to be in place. This proposal, we're bringing sewer to the site. If we had clustered with 7 units, we still have to have separate septic areas for the project itself. It'd be a clustering would be almost like a zero lot line type of layout with individual septics.
Is there any, in the surrounding properties to this site, is there any density that's comparable to this that you're requesting?
No, not really. It's
Okay.
half-acre zoning's up on top of the hill. That's about what they have.
And I think another thing that should be looked at is with the septics and all the other work, ancillary work that would have to be done with the homes. You're
Yes.
not doing that with the
That's
attached
correct.
home.
We don't have to.
So really should show the tree buffer.
Yes.
And the difference between the two.
Yep.
Because if the homes, with the septics and everything else, you're cutting down more trees. If that's not the same, it's going to take place with the attached homes. Again,
Right.
that's something that needs to be looked at.
Yeah, we have that.
Again, if you're grading heavily with one and cutting a lot more trees down with one,
Correct.
and the other one, you're not grading as heavily, you're not adding these septic areas, and you're not taking down as many trees,
Correct.
right? These are things we need to see before we send anything off to the
I agree,
town.
yes. Again, a work session, we'll go
I
through this with you.
understand.
And so we also provided our unit layouts of the project itself. Basically, we're not looking at really small projects. The units we're looking at are either 1,200 square feet or 1,500 square feet units. We're going to have an affordable component we're offering with this. And we need the unit count to help us with bringing the sewer up the street. So that's kind of why we have the density we proposed. But we did look carefully at when we created this project, is we reduce the impervious, reduce the disturbance, and And we basically, that was the premise of this proposal before you tonight.
The street on the residential homes?
Yes.
That would be a public street?
It would be, yes.
So it would take staff, the public, the town of Yorktown would have to go in and plow,
That's
maintain
correct.
that road?
Yes.
I'm assuming that the
It's all
attached
private.
home is private.
Private, yes, correct.
So that's something else that we...
Yes. Yep.
Because if there's no impact on the town and the facilities, this is something we should see.
I agree.
Okay?
Very good.
Also, street lighting of the buildings,
Right.
the backyards of these residences. How is that going to impact anybody coming down the street or the neighboring properties? Right? If that buffer is left, you're not going to see that, where if it's a street, you might see that.
Yeah, our intent is to nest this proposal into a forest cutout and then augment whatever you want, because we have 13 acres of open space.
I get
Play
that.
with, yeah.
I think it's just not really relayed in the
Yes,
simple,
correct.
you know, I think you got to work on some details here.
Sure.
And I'm not trying to cut you off or interrupt, but I think we need to see those things in here, so that there's a clear difference between single-family homes
Yes.
and attached homes. I think
Right.
you've heard from some of the other applications here tonight. There's a real concern about buffering and, you know, seeing these new
I took notes.
developments. All right, so I think, you know, I don't have enough here to push this forward.
Yeah, I agree.
I do see some of the points that you guys are making to push it forward, but you got to show us.
Yeah, we have a 3D model we'll present with everything on it.
That we want to see. So,
Correct.
again, you're coming here for us as the planning board to send them a letter to the town board and recommending a zoning change.
Correct.
right? Which is a big deal.
Yes.
And I see what you're trying to do here, but you're not showing us.
I understand.
All right, so anybody here from the public will come back and they'll say, well, we didn't see this. So
Would you want stormwater management as well,
I
comparing
think
the
we
two?
should see, yes,
Okay,
again,
sure.
they're treated very differently. Again, it looks like the possible impervious area from the residential, the single-family homes is going to be greater.
It
than
is.
Right, so, again,
Give you a chart.
pluses and minuses for both.
Yes.
Okay?
Not a problem.
And I think we need to see that. So I
Okay.
think what I would do, and I see Dan in the back there, hiding behind Tom, is sit down with the planning department and the engineering department to really work through these details. Because again, if we're going to be making a recommendation, you're going to get this compared to this. You're
I
gonna
agree.
get this, okay?
Sure, not a problem.
Are we missing anything else?
I personally think multifamily is the way to go. It's, housing is needed, less disturbance.
They got to show it.
Well, if they
Yeah.
show it the right way, I would.
I don't
agree
disagree
to
with you, but
Put the
again,
multifamily units in.
we need to see
We'll
the
give you a
devil in the
comparative
details.
chart of both options, and
Yep.
every item will be on it.
Stormwater, impervious, grading, public versus private, street lighting,
Right.
buffering. You know, think
Sure.
about the neighbor across the street who has down the street solar now and other things. You're going to want to, this is a sales pitch, why the town should entertain changing that zone.
Not a problem.
Yes, all these things matter.
Well, I'll tell you, if I was to buy a single-family house in that project and I see the solar across the street, I wouldn't want it. That's why I would say.
That's why we're here.
The multiple family is good because you're a renter.
Right. We've been an intermediate step between that industrial solar farm and the residential. We're just an incremental step between that, half and
Understood.
half.
To the property.
All right, so sit down, get the two departments together and work out the details. Okay?
Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, last but not least, and I am not going to pronounce this name.
Pojo Rielli.
Can you say that 3 times fast?
Pojo Rielli.
Thank you. We have a ZBA referral number 3524. This is for a discussion of a special use permit, locations 2829 Compound Road. This is for a proposed daycare center and preschool. Anybody here on the application?
No, I don't see it. But it's on referral from the, I can fill in a little bit.
Yeah,
On
please.
referral from the zoning board, and I know that the zoning board believes that this board should do a site plan approval process, formal approval with a resolution, not just comments. You should do that. So you will be the lead agency. This is in DEP's jurisdiction as well. So being better equipped to handle the secret process, I think the zoning board thinks that that's the way to go, including that you're better equipped to do the site plan.
That's fine.
So
That's what we do.
if we draft a letter towards that, the
Should we
ZBA wants
identify,
us
I
to
saw
take
your
the- I would say
department
we agree with them.
memos.
All right, so I guess we could draft a memo that we agree with there, or something to start that process.
We couldn't hear.
Yeah, something with, Tom, some of these mics seem to,
Yeah, well, we didn't hear what John was suggesting. Could you repeat that?
he
last?
said the zoning board of appeals wants us to do a full-blown site plan on this and to take the lead. So I think we're gonna,
We have a full-blown site plan.
yeah, so I think we would,
So we should do that.
yeah, so we'll refer back to them that we agree with their.
And the memos that were written to us, we should use those as feedback to the applicant.
Correct.
Okay.
I'm surprised the applicant's not here. We did speak with them on more than one occasion.
Okay, maybe they're at the
They're,
town hall.
They need a wetland permit. Who's going to issue that then? Us or the zoning?
You will.
Okay.
Because you're taking on the lead agency role, and your action will be a site plan approval. So.
Okay.
All right, do I have motion to, motion to close the meeting?
Motion.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor?
I'll leave it to my wife.